Frumess talks about Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Let's all talk about Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Ho, here we are back again with horror movie number 4 for 31 days of Halloween. Going strong, day 4, movie 4. We don't have any hiccups. This is a Shudder original called Teddy. So here's the thing though. Shudder originals have been very hit or miss for me, with very, very little in between. And I am happy to report that Teddy was a big, fat hit with its Carrie meets Beauty and the Beast via werewolf vibes that work on every single level. And that's what I found most surprising about Teddy, as it is somewhat marketed as a straight werewolf film, which makes total sense, but it is so very much more. At its core, like every monster film, is the notion of Beauty and the Beast, which is French, just like Teddy. And underneath every monster's skin lies some form of misunderstood humanity. The idea that, beneath the ugliness of being a monster, there is some sort of humanity that's usually more pure than the humans that they go up against, in case, especially when the human ends up being the antagonist, they underneath are monstrous while appearing human on the surface, and vice versa. The monster is monstrous and underneath is a human. And that all of that stems from Beauty and the Beast, right? In the case of Teddy, he is literally a lone wolf with no future, unlike all the other kids his age. So he's like this outsider. He dropped out of school. Everybody else is getting ready to go to college, but he has this girlfriend who he loves, and as we later find out that he loves her way more than she ever loved him. She is growing up. She's in the normal stages of growing up, and she's into this type of heavy metal music that he's all about, and she's into him right now. And then she changes. Now I'm about rap. Now I don't love you anymore. That kind of thing. This theme of being a lone wolf with no future runs very, very deep throughout the narrative and expresses itself in all sorts of thought-provoking symbolism. Some of which is very on the nose, but I didn't really mind. I was okay with that. Another interesting thing that Teddy does so well is present the idea of lycanthropy as body horror. We don't often think of werewolf films in this way, and it is refreshing to spend more time watching the gradual changes as well as some new ones take place. Like, for instance, he starts developing hair on weird sort of vulnerable membranes. That's the way I'd put it. Vulnerable membranes of the human body. He has hairs growing out of his eyeballs. He has hair growing on his tongue. It's horrifying. I think Ginger Snaps does a very good job of treating being a werewolf as sort of more of like a body horror type thing. But generally it's more about a full transformation into a different creature, and not so much as my body is working against me as I transform and change into something that I maybe not want to change into. The ending shocked me a bit, as it delivers carnage that I really was not expecting. I was quite impressed that most of the time we skip over the werewolf action and mainly revel in its aftermath. It's very effective, as Teddy ends up going full on Carrie via werewolf attack at the end. And I think that it's done in part because the film doesn't want us to focus on the werewolfness, and instead places special emphasis on the humanity of the story, of being like a lone wolf, of being an outsider, of being a beast who covets beauty. That's the tragedy of the Beauty and the Beast. We come from two different worlds and we're two different things, and yet I want you and I can't have you. Is sort of like the trope, the trope there. Eventually we get to a very sad, tragic, angry village mob ending. That's the thing, there's a lone wolf that's slaughtering, or they believe that there's a wolf that's slaughtering herds of livestock, and they basically put all the blame on a literal lone wolf. And that's what I mean by on the nose symbolism. It's a literal lone wolf that Teddy actually has an affinity for, and the mob, the villagers or whoever, the townspeople, they chase down the wolf that they believe to be doing these killings. And there's a moment where Teddy watches this happen from a grassy hill after his girlfriend rejects him, and he cries. And you just tell that it's not just crying about the girlfriend, he's crying because he relates to the wolf. Some notes that I have here, there's some visceral transformative symptoms of being a wolf that just are really, really, really well done. He's fully aware that he is a wolf too. Like, it doesn't seem, he looks up at the moon. There are times where he looks up at the moon, he goes into a trance and strips down, and, he himself is like killing the livestock as well. And you see him sort of in his human form doing it. Something that I experimented with I talked about this previously with the wolf in Snow Hollow. It's so funny how this is like the third time where there's been like this concept that sort of, touches on something that I had written 10 years ago that I thought was super original. But I see that, people have been kind of like doing it, parallel ideal thinking, whatnot. I'm just sad that I never made it myself, and maybe I will someday. I love the fact that he uses Wikipedia to look up his werewolfness. He's like reading about what it is to be a werewolf, and Wikipedia is just straight up used as story exposition, and I just don't mind. It makes perfect sense. I feel like in any modern monster movie with the internet, we're not going to look at some like ancient leathery tomb. We're going to look at Wikipedia. It just works. When his girlfriend does eventually break his heart, it's with the painful truth. And I wrote here that sometimes the truth is most painful because it's real. And that's what, it's brutal. It brutalizes. And she says, I guess you just love me way more than I love you, and I'm not into that type of music anymore. And, basically just chalking Teddy up as nothing more than a phase as they're graduating. They literally stand before at the bingo night, which is kind of like the prom night for Carrie. They're at this bingo night graduation ceremony, and there's a sign in French, and it says something about to the future or the future. And that's very important because it sort of plays into what's going to happen next. I also noticed that she breaks up with him as she stands behind a painting of horses, and she's telling him to go away, and he refuses, which makes me think of a line from the Rolling Stones, "Wild horses couldn't drag me away." Okay, so I wrote here, all the kids have a future, Teddy doesn't, and when he tries to make one with the girl, he's brutally rejected because he tells the girl, let's get married, or like, let's build a house together and we can have some kids, and that's when she rejects him. She's like, she's not into it at all. And when he goes full Carrie, he basically slaughters this room full of kids. And it's very similar to the way that he slaughtered all the livestock, which means that the kids are sheep. That going to this future, all of it, it's like you're just sheep and you're just in the rat race and yada, yada, yada. And there's the aftermath. When the aftermath begins, you see the sign for future, it falls. It literally falls. Again, on the nose symbolism, but totally works like so well. And just like the field full of sheep, everyone else gets murdered. I wonder, and we only see him as a werewolf for one shot. It's one shot. It's so perfect. It's so well done. We don't need to see like endless shots of werewolf carnage. We see that in every film. It's a perfect shot, and it's a shot where he's not even doing anything as the werewolf. He just sort of looks on at her, the girl, everybody else is dead, and he kind of backs away. And you just get the feeling that he kind of knows what he's doing as the wolf, and that there is humanity beneath that wolf veneer. And it just, I don't know, it's really sad, man. It's a really sort of tragic thing. You don't feel bad for anybody but Teddy. At least, I don't know, I didn't. And then at the end of the film, he's running from the authorities. He makes it back to, he lives with his aunt, like this weird aunt. He doesn't have a mother and a father, and he lives with this strange guy. I'm not sure how they're related. Maybe I missed that at the beginning. And the guy, they welcome him back at the kitchen table and pour him a bowl of cereal as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't slaughtered literally 100 people in this bingo hall. And it just goes to show that they accept him no matter what he has done or who he is, because he's family. They see the humanity underneath. And then we get this mob. The mob comes. It's just like, Frankenstein, like classic Frankenstein, where the mob chases Frankenstein's monster into the windmill. In this case, it's their apartment, which is up some stairs. So they're rushing up the stairs, and his whatever weird roommate, caregiver guy has a shotgun and helps him up, further into like this attic area. And at first you think like he's going to protect him. He's protecting him from the mob, this unconditional love. And then he old yellers him. He puts him out of his misery. He's a rabid dog that needs to be put down, just like Old Yeller. And that's what happens. He shoots Teddy, and Teddy dies, and he's very sad. It's very, very sad. And then we get this little button on the end that just really wraps up the whole thing in a nice little bow. It's a very simple story. It's not, the way it handles the material might be unique and great and fresh, but it's not like doing anything out of the box new. And that is reflected, in the end. We get this little button. The only survivor from the bingo hall is the girlfriend. She's alive. And we see on her back, she has the same werewolf scratch that Teddy suffered. So Teddy, when he goes to the bingo hall, it kind of reveals maybe he wanted to kill all the other kids, but it was all about making her like him so that they could have a future together, so that they could, find a way to be together in the future. And it's just really, really sad. Really, really good film. I mean, I gave this 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. Really, it deserves 5. I might change it to 5. It's just that good. And like I said, one of the best things, along with this other thing called Game of Death, I think it's called, one of the best things I've seen on Shudder yet, like period, especially of the Shudder original stuff. Like just bravo, Shudder, really. So far we've had 4 really, really, really solid films to begin this 31 days of Halloween. Let's keep up the momentum. I'll see you tomorrow night with another entry.